Imagine dominating one of the most competitive leagues on the planet for over 20 years. Imagine coaching Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal, three of the most powerful forces basketball has ever seen, and convincing them to set aside their egos for the sake of a system. Now imagine doing that 11 times, winning championships using almost the same tactic every single time. That's Phil Jackson, the coach who didn't need to reinvent the wheel. He just understood the human mind better than anyone. That's the secret that changed the game forever. Phil Jackson wasn't just a coach. He was like a monk with a clipboard. A man who spoke of balance, awareness, and collective harmony while commanding the fiercest warriors on the court. Nicknamed the Zen Master, Jackson led the Chicago Bulls and the Los Angeles Lakers to a total of 11 NBA championships as head coach, a record no one has ever matched. And the most astonishing part? He used essentially the same tactic in all of them. But what was this tactic? Why did it work so well? And how did Phil Jackson manage to apply it to teams filled with complex personalities and massive egos? The answer starts with one word: triangle. Originally developed by Tex Winter, the triangle offense might have appeared straightforward on paper, but its true complexity revealed itself in the discipline, basketball IQ, and selflessness required during actual gameplay and practice sessions. It was a system that demanded more than just physical skill. It required mental sharpness and a willingness to put the team above individual glory. The basic concept revolves around spatial positioning and fluid movement. 3 players form a geometric triangle on one side of the court, establishing a strong and versatile base. 2 other players position themselves on the weak side, creating balance and multiple options for attack. The ball moves freely between players with constant motion and rotation, allowing any player to become the focal point of the offense at any given moment. Unlike many offensive schemes that rely on rigid, scripted plays, the triangle offense thrives on adaptability and reading the defense in real time. There are no predetermined star players dominating the ball. Instead, the offense flows naturally, emphasizing intelligent passing, movement without the ball, and teamwork. Tex Winter famously said, "In the triangle, the ball finds the open man." This simple yet profound principle embodies the essence of the offense. It is designed to exploit defensive weaknesses through continuous player movement and ball circulation, forcing opponents into difficult decisions and creating high-percentage scoring opportunities. What made this approach so revolutionary? Because it shifted the spotlight away from individual heroes and returned the power to the collective. In an era where superstar personalities often clashed or sought to control the ball, the triangle demanded humility and trust. It required players to sacrifice personal stats for the greater good of the team, a mindset not easily embraced in professional sports. Phil Jackson was the only coach bold enough to fully commit to this philosophy during the height of the superstar era. His unwavering belief in the system and his ability to get elite players to buy into it turned the triangle offense into one of the most effective and enduring strategies in basketball history. Imagine the challenge, trying to convince Michael Jordan, widely regarded as the greatest scorer the NBA has ever seen, that he needed to pass the ball more often. To many, this might sound like an impossible task. Jordan was not just a superstar. He was a relentless competitor, fiercely independent, and accustomed to dominating games on his own terms. For most coaches, asking Jordan to share the ball more would have led to conflict or outright failure. But Phil Jackson had a different approach, a plan grounded in respect, psychology, and strategic vision. He never confronted Jordan with force or tried to suppress his incredible talent. Instead, he appealed to Jordan's competitive nature in a way that resonated deeply. Phil showed Jordan that trusting his teammates wouldn't diminish his greatness, it would actually enhance it. By distributing the ball and involving others, Jordan could conserve energy, reduce the mental burden of carrying the offense alone, and focus his intensity on the moments that truly demanded his brilliance. Passing the ball wasn't about losing control. It was about gaining clarity and stamina for the ultimate challenge. This mindset shift was crucial. It laid the foundation for the Chicago Bulls dynasty of the 1990s, a team that transcended individual stardom to become a cohesive, nearly unstoppable unit. The triangle offense wasn't just a system. It was the framework that allowed Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and the supporting cast to function like a single living organism, moving fluidly and anticipating each other's actions with precision. From 1991 to 1998, that harmony translated into dominance. The Bulls won 6 NBA championships in just 8 years, cementing their legacy as one of the greatest dynasties in sports history. As Jordan himself said, "Phil didn't teach me how to play basketball. He taught me how to win." When Phil Jackson took over as head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers in 1999, it was like déjà vu for basketball fans and analysts alike. The situation echoed many of the challenges he had faced before, but with a new cast of characters. The Lakers had a roster packed with immense talent, but it was far from harmonious. At the core was a dominant big man, Shaquille O'Neal, a physically imposing force whose presence on the court was almost unstoppable. Alongside him was a young, explosive talent named Kobe Bryant, whose raw skill and competitiveness promised greatness but also came with a fiery temperament. The locker room was fractured, filled with clashing egos, uncertainty, and tension. Faced with this complex dynamic, Phil didn't reinvent his approach. Instead, he brought back the proven recipe that had served him so well with the Chicago Bulls: Zen philosophy, the triangle offense, and a style of silent, calm leadership that demanded respect without shouting or intimidation. Phil's Zen approach encouraged mindfulness and balance, teaching players to focus on the present moment and on their roles within the team rather than on individual glory. The triangle offense created a structured yet fluid system where every player's movement and decision fed into the collective success of the unit. His quiet but authoritative leadership created a space where trust could grow and egos could be managed without direct confrontation. In a remarkably short time, this combination transformed a disjointed, conflicted group into a deadly, cohesive unit. The Lakers began to play with a level of synchronization and selflessness rarely seen in professional basketball. The result? 3 consecutive NBA championships from 2000 to 2002, a clear statement that Phil's method worked again. But the story didn't end there. After a few years of rebuilding and maturation, Kobe Bryant evolved into a mature leader, learning from his experiences and taking on a role modeled in the image of Michael Jordan: disciplined, focused, and ready to lead. Under Phil's continued guidance, the Lakers captured 2 more NBA titles in 2009 and 2010, proving that the same philosophy and system could adapt and thrive with new stars in a new era. Phil Jackson's genius went far beyond X's and O's or traditional basketball strategy. What truly set him apart was his unparalleled ability to make players not just execute a system, but to wholeheartedly believe in it. He understood that basketball is as much a mental and emotional game as it is physical, and his insight into the human psyche was as sharp as his knowledge of the sport. He could read people the way others read a playbook, discerning their fears, motivations, and inner conflicts, and tailoring his approach to unlock their potential. His leadership style was deeply psychological, holistic, and profoundly empathetic.
He incorporated practices that were unconventional in the world of professional sports. Meditation sessions became a regular part of team routines, helping players cultivate mindfulness, focus, and emotional control amidst the chaos of high-pressure games. Phil personally assigned books to players, carefully selecting titles that resonated with their individual personalities and challenges, promoting personal growth alongside athletic performance. Drawing from Zen Buddhism, Native American philosophies, and martial arts traditions, he used powerful metaphors and teachings to inspire mental resilience, discipline, and unity. Central to his philosophy were concepts like detachment, learning to let go of ego and outcomes, presence, being fully engaged in the moment, and oneness, understanding the team as a single living entity. Phil's famous mantra, "Before you can control the game, you have to control yourself," captured this mindset perfectly. He taught that mastering one's own mind and emotions was the foundation for mastering the sport itself. This psychological approach was transformative. It broke down mental barriers and resistance that often arise from wounded egos or self-doubt. It healed fractured relationships within the team and turned collections of talented individuals into cohesive, championship-winning units. Phil Jackson didn't just coach basketball players. He shaped leaders who commanded respect, monks who embodied calm and presence, warriors who fought with discipline, and brothers who bonded in pursuit of a common goal. If the triangle offense was such an effective and revolutionary strategy, a question naturally arises: why hasn't anyone else been able to replicate Phil Jackson's extraordinary success with it? After all, the system itself is well documented, and coaches have access to the same playbook and training methods. The answer lies not just in the X's and O's of basketball, but in the very nature of what the triangle offense demands from its players and coaches. The triangle is not a mere set of plays, it's a philosophy, one that requires sacrifice, intelligence, and profound ego control. These qualities are harder to cultivate than any play diagram. Sacrifice means putting the team above personal glory and statistics, willingly passing up the spotlight so the collective can thrive. Intelligence goes beyond raw talent. It involves high basketball IQ, the ability to read the game, anticipate moves, and make split-second decisions for the greater good. Ego control is perhaps the most challenging. It demands humility, patience, and the willingness to subdue personal desires for the team's harmony. In today's NBA and professional sports landscape, increasingly driven by individual branding, personal accolades, and media hype, these three traits have become rare commodities. The modern game often celebrates the superstar who dominates the ball, the highlight reel, and personal records, rather than the collective flow and shared success. Phil Jackson, however, was more than just a coach. He was a locker room shaman, a spiritual guide who understood and influenced the emotional and psychological currents of his teams. He was a basketball philosopher who saw the game not just as a sport, but as a reflection of life's deeper lessons about cooperation, balance, and unity. He transformed disparate groups of talented individuals into a collective soul, a unified organism capable of transcending the sum of its parts. This alchemy is why his success with the triangle offense remains unique and to this day unmatched. In the end, the triangle offense was only the surface, the visible layer of a much deeper philosophy that guided Phil Jackson throughout his coaching career. The true source of his unprecedented success wasn't just the plays drawn on the chalkboard or the offensive sets executed on the court. It was his profound vision of basketball as a spiritual experience, a transformative journey far beyond mere competition. For Jackson, basketball became a sacred space, a place where raw talent had to bow to something greater than individual prowess. It was a realm where the game transcended physicality and statistics, evolving into a form of meditation. Every pass, every movement, every decision was an expression of mindfulness and collective harmony, turning the court into a temple where unity reigned supreme. Winning in this light was never about brute force or ego-driven dominance. It was the natural outcome of balance, trust, and connection among teammates. A symphony of synchronized efforts, perfectly attuned to a shared purpose. This perspective reshaped what it meant to be a champion, revealing that true victory is rooted in harmony rather than sheer power. That's why Phil Jackson's legacy extends far beyond the gleaming championship rings displayed in trophy cases. He taught us all that, in a world increasingly obsessed with numbers, stats, fame, and individual glory, The real champion is the one who understands the unparalleled value of playing as one, as a unified whole, where the collective triumphs over the individual. If this content inspired you, share it with someone who loves basketball and wants to understand the game beyond the stats. And if you want more stories like this, about leaders, legends, and strategies that shaped the sport, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because here, we don't just talk basketball. We understand what makes it an art.